I'm Nick Filardi.
I'm Jason Thielbar.
Welcome to the world's second finest podcast. Welcome to the To Read Pile, where my co-host and I set out to read and watch every piece of media that is not Batman related from 1996. Jason, on a long enough timeline, we're going to read it all.
You
That's
know,
a pledge.
I'm just like some of those delusional tech billionaires. I think I can live forever.
Yes. Yes. We need to start having, I'm going to get my blood scrubbed so that I can read the Nth Man. That's the goal.
Yeah. I want to read Detective Comics number 5,442, and I want to have opinions about it. All right.
That people are going to want to hear by tuning in to this podcast and the To Read Pile. Jason,
yes.
What did you bring to the To Read Pile?
I am bringing sort of two things. Well, I'll explain in a second. But the first thing is an actual book, a book.
Excellent.
Called Saving Time by Jenny Odell. I'm really digging this book. Jenny Odell is an artist. She previously had a book out a few years ago called How to Do Nothing that I blew through. Like, I really, really loved. They're nonfiction books. How to Do Nothing was about kind of like how to actually just sort of like enjoy space and like life, you know, like how to actually, and by space, I mean like the space in the world, like around you, you know,
sure.
and what not just social media, but like every other aspect of life kind of like draws for you to be busy and what productivity even means. And especially, you know, in the kind of world that we're in, I kind of want to read it again. I gave it to somebody a while ago. I'll probably just buy it again. But anyway, Saving Time though is, I'm about halfway through it at this point. It's quite a bit thicker in terms of it's dense. It's a bit denser than How to Do Nothing was. There's a lot of references to, and I've been writing them down because I'm looking forward to reading them, to philosophical papers. Because Saving Time itself is sort of about how to put it. It's about how we structure time in our society and like our relationship to it, sort of like starting with the clock and starting with everything that's been, you know, 24 hours in a day, right? And how we live with time, especially under capitalism, because the way we experience time and for the past few hundred years really has been always tied with capitalism. It's been tied with the factory floor. It's been tied with, you know, productivity, you know, like people, even in like the early industrial revolution where there was this guy, John Taylor, and this thing ended up being called Taylorism, which is just making things as efficient as possible. Like, you know, the like how long it takes to do a certain job in a factory, how many like, you know, and that whole thing of like, how many motions does it take someone to like, you know, in a Chili's kitchen to pick up a knife and to do this, and we're going to set everything up in these ways to make it as like, so you don't waste one single second, right?
Not to reference The Bear again, which I feel like we've been doing off and on this podcast, but every second counts.
Yeah, you know, and so like that. But also the mentality that, not mentality, so under capitalism, not everyone's time is the same. Like there's this saying that everyone has the same 24 hours. And it's like, no, they don't. That's complete bullshit. Because if you have children, you clearly do not have the same 24 hours as somebody who does not have children. If you are poor, you don't have the same 24 hours as someone who's rich. And what the rich end up doing to get more time is they buy time off of other people. I don't want to even go out to Popeyes tonight. I'm going to order DoorDash because I can afford to order DoorDash, you know,
Or
And
laundry services or cleaning, house cleaning, stuff like that. Yeah. They buy time.
yeah, exactly. And it's uh it's just it's just really good. It's really good. She's really her writing style is, there's this confidence behind it that I think is probably has a lot to do with like her background as like an artist and a teacher, and so she's probably been in like an academic world for a while, and so
Sure.
she knows how to write like convincing position papers, I guess. But this isn't really a
Yeah.
position paper. Um, and again, but it's really really good. It's really given me a lot of uh, things to think about, and it's really kind of right up my alley with the kind of like amateur philosophy stuff I like to get into,
Yeah.
which I actually think this book is really good for something like that. If you're interested in philosophy at all, because philosophy can be, it's really hard if you if you start with just like, you know, a critique of pure reason. You know, I mean, it's hard for a philosophy PhD to read a critique of pure reason. You know, but so like if you're
Sure.
going it alone, like I do, like never having taken a philosophy course in college or anything like that, or really been to college, whenever I read like Sartre or something, it takes me an
Mhm.
excruciatingly long time, especially the like sort of really thicker esoteric stuff. Um, but saving time, I think, would be like a really good sort of introduction to like that way of thinking, and
Yeah.
and how those processes are broken down, and how to kind of think about them, and like approach those things. So yeah,
Is it
saving time.
is it
Man.
making you look at your own life a little differently? Is there anything that like you're like, oh, I need to change this in my life?
Not not necessarily, because there's not really, at least not yet, there's not too much, even in like How to Do Nothing, there wasn't a whole lot of like really prescriptive things to do.
Sure.
It's really funny how the book became, How to Do Nothing became really popular, it became a bestseller. And the title itself, I think, is like probably meant to be slightly clickbaity, you know, just
Sure.
like
Yeah.
saving time.
You got to move those books.
Yeah, because the full title of the book is Saving Time, Discovering a Life Beyond the Clock, right? And so like when you look at that, you'd think like, oh, it's a self-help book,
Right.
right? Like it's going to help me, like, you know, whatever. And so far, at least, there hasn't, I think she's going to get to some slightly prescriptive stuff, but like so far it's just been a lot of explanations of our concepts of time, you know, and how we just accept it, you know,
Yeah.
like we just
Yeah.
accept the like, and not the fact that like, you know, there's, you know, sun rises, sun sets, there's like obviously
Sure.
some thing that's happening, and it's not saying that there's like no use for a clock, but like, you know, she mentions something like how farmers before, there were farmers before clocks,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, the sun's going down, and okay, that means we have this much time to finish this up, and all this stuff up and going in the house.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think what it's done for me so far is just kind of remind me and like wake me up out of this idea that I have um, as much control as I used to think, you know? And
Sure.
it's like I really don't, you know, and back to the like everyone has the same 24 hours. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, no, because I work at the least 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and I work a physical job, you
Right.
know, and I get home and I'm tired. And even if I
Right.
would want to get a better job, right? Oh, I need, you know, more training. It's like, okay, great. Now I got to go to night classes. Oh, but
Sure.
not
Yeah.
only
Yeah.
like night classes at a community college, I now have to spend what little time I do have, like researching how to get a loan. What classes should I take? What prerequisites do I need? When am I going to find the time to study? When am I going to find
This
the
is
time
a
to study regularly? You know, and a lot of that's like just so beyond my control that it's actually kind of freeing in a
yeah.
sense of like being like, okay, well, there really is only so much I can control. And so I'm trying to figure out the best way. And even before reading it, still trying to, it's helping me articulate it though, to try to find the best way with what I can. You know,
Sure.
it's almost like the alcoholic's prayer, or I don't think they call it the alcoholic's prayer, but
it was
the
like
AA, God grant me the strength to like
change what I can and the strength to accept what I can't change, or something like that.
Yeah. And to see the difference, you know, which is always good advice. I really do like that.
Sure.
Like that saying, you know, and it's kind of like in that sense, it's like, okay, like I can't, you know, I'm sorry, Nick, this just in, I can't stop capitalism. You know, like we're all living under it.
You know what, Jason, I didn't want to put this on you, but I was counting on you. All right. So I'm pretty upset right now.
Well, I'm still kind of young-ish, so like I have some time.
You got a couple of years left to stop capitalism.
Yeah, I got a little bit. But it's just been kind of reigniting my amateur love of like philosophy. I just love
That's
these
cool.
kinds of these kind of like sticky, like complex, like questions are really fun to talk about and tease out and
sure. Yeah.
So saving time. And my other thing is I just wanted to say, I guess this isn't really a to read, but I absolutely fucking love the band Yo La Tango. I love them so much. They're so good. I just recently again have been I've been rebuying albums digitally that I used to have physically, and you know, like I don't have Spotify or anything anymore, like haven't like in a while.
I know you're a big anti-Spotify, pro Bandcamp kind of guy.
Yeah, or any other place where you can like pay an artist, because like, hey, and you know, and anyone listening to this, like no shade on you if you have a Spotify account.
Sure,
and
I have a Spotify account.
I had one for years and years and years. I initially stopped using them because like I found that I wasn't using Spotify as much, because like there was like some stuff that like actually wasn't on there, and I was just like, you know what?
That's a little frustrating.
Yeah. But I will say this about it though, just from like a logic perspective. Most people on Spotify, when you look at your year-end list, and those are always fun to like, you know, look back on what you listen to the most. Most people listen to the same like 2 to 3 artists, if not albums, throughout the entire year. So the next time your Spotify year-end comes up, make special note of it, and then just go out and buy those albums, because you obviously like them enough, and then you have it and you've supported the artist. You don't have to get rid of your Spotify, but I think it might be useful to be like, oh, hey, here's the stuff I listen to a lot. Maybe I'll keep Spotify for like playlists or discovery or like those other kinds of things. But like,
sure.
Hey, it's like I've listened to like whatever 8 million times this year.
I've been thinking about recently about like old iPods and stuff like that, and like dedicated music players, and how nice it was to not have it on your phone, to like have a thing that you purposely loaded up. Like you took time, you took thought, it had a set amount of space, and you filled it with the stuff that you liked, you know, rather than just being like, it's in the cloud, whatever. Who cares? Like, it like robs it of personality.
Yeah, exactly. And like I once told when Brian and Emily were up for a visit, our good friends Brian and Emily, I was like, you know, hanging out with them, and that had like come up for whatever reason, just like the buying music digitally. And I was like, well, yeah, I'm like, you know, it's about like a few things, and I'm like, but another thing it was largely about too, of the reason why I got off of Spotify was that I was getting really to miss a lot the way before Spotify I had engaged with music. You know, like I would go out, and it wasn't just about like buying the physical copy. It was more about that, like I bought this whole album I bought, and I don't know if it'll be good or not, but I'm going to actually like engage with it more, because it's now part of my collection. And it might be something that, oh, and dude, and how much I miss crate digging. Like, and I sort of do that on Bandcamp, but like
I feel like you're speaking the language of like everybody who digs through like long boxes at comic shops as well. It's the same feeling of like having an emotional tie to the object, and you found it in this specific place, and you remember that shop, and you remember that time in your life. And like, that's a magical thing that gets like basically sterilized because of the cloud and, you know, whatever on demand bullshit, you know?
Yeah. Cause like a band that was a favorite band of mine for a while, this band Phenomena, from they're broke up a while ago, but like they're great. But the way I discovered them was that I was at a Newberry Comics, I think. And I'm like, you know, flipping through like the CDs, and I pick up this book. And I mean, it was like a book. It was like thick. And it just had this white cover with this really intentionally bad monster drawing in the corner on the front, and like nothing else. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck this thing is, but it's only $20, and it's a full ass, like, this looks like hundreds of pages of something in here. And I want to know what is in here and what it was. And the artifact itself was really cool too. I'm bummed that I lost it ages ago. But what it was, though, was that it was just their CD, but all of the pages were a flip book, right?
That's rad.
Of photographs of the band, and they're all kind of like spinning on these chairs, or like someone else is doing something else. But the name of the album was I Am the Fun Blame Monster, right?
Yeah.
That was at the beginning of the flip book. And then all the letters start moving around, and it was an anagram that spelled out Phenomena's first record or something.
That's rad.
Like, yeah. And so like, you know, like shit like that, but like also just like, I don't know, I can't remember the name because it's a Japanese name and it's very hard to pronounce. But a while back, there's this thing I'll do on Bandcamp sometimes where like on the homepage they have this little ticker that's just like what people are buying right then. And on super busy days, it'll just be like flying by. And so I'll just hover my cursor over it randomly. And if I see something that looks like an interesting album cover, I'll click on it and maybe listen to it. But sometimes I'll be like, that's $8. Fuck it.
Chuck it in the bin. Yeah. Let's go.
Yeah. and I found this really awesome Japanese psychedelic rock record.
Oh yeah.
From it. Yeah.
I actually
like it was great.
I started listening to some Japanese math rock, and then Spotify was like
Boris?
Hey. Yeah. And then Spotify was like, hey, do you want more Japanese rock? And I was like, I guess. And I've kind of gone down that rabbit hole, but it's weird because I'm like, I don't know what anybody's saying. The music is good, and I kind of don't know what to do with this stuff, you know, but I'm just kind of enjoying it. So I don't know.
Yeah. It's also why I've fallen so in love with the radio station I bring up all the time, WFMU, because they have
a feed online too that people can listen to, right?
Yes, they do. They have 3 feeds online actually that people can listen to. They have two internet only feeds and 1 terrestrial feed that's playing whatever shows are on their terrestrial station at the time. And they also have over 20 years of archives, and it's all free. It's all just.
That's rad. I'm gonna drop
free.
That link in the show notes for sure.
Yeah, it's so good, and it's just another thing of like, it's just so nice to like know that like a person is curating this.
Man,
you know?
I just listened to a terrible thing about the future of AI, and it freaked the hell out of me. But because they're talking about how, you know, right now, for a lack of a better term, AI is a monkey and it will eventually become a man. And it will evolve into that, and it will get better. And they were saying that AI will be able to do everything that humans can do creatively in 20 years. And it made me think. You're shaking your head, but I don't know. We'll see. Bold predictions, tech predictions. Everybody, some get right, some get it wrong. Whatever.
That's a different rant for a different show.
Yeah. But I was thinking, I was like, I wonder if we're going to hit a point where, like, right now, boomers are on Facebook and they're like, eagle.gov told me that there's a, nefarious pizza ring, whatever. Anyway, they're trusting whatever's in front of them. And I wonder if we're going to hit a point in our society where, like, you can make something so fast with AI that you begin to trust nothing unless you can verify the human being it came from. Like, we're going to start to, like, put what people make on a higher pedestal and, like, treat it with care rather than just, like, the constant content garbage that we're sucking down right now. I don't know if it's going to go that way or not. That's my big tech prediction. The other thing I wanted to say to you is that I noticed personally that when I was in Gainesville, Florida has a comic shop. However, the guy admittedly is like, comics are like 15% of my income. It's mostly Magic and Warhammer. I talked to him about, like, setting up signings, and he was like not interested. And, like, he was just like, there's not enough people around who are into comics, which, like, I found hard to believe, especially because we're, at the height of at the time we were at the height of, like, the Marvel movies and all that stuff. Anyway, the point is that with this comic shop that was not very fun, not very engaging, I started, like, selling things out of my collection, being like, I'll just read digitally, whatever. Cause, like, it wasn't a treat to go to that shop. And then now that I'm here in the mountains, like, I go to a shop that I found a shop that I really love, and I go in there and I spend more than I necessarily went in for, like, I'll go in for one book and I'll come out with 5 kind of thing. And that was how it was when I was in Philly too. I'd go in like, and be like, hey, what should I read? And then the guys in the store, Rob and Brian, they'd be like, oh, you want this? You want this? Have you read this thing? I just read this thing. It's great. Put it on the pile. Like, I found that now that I'm in a good environment with a good shop, with someone who engages with me, who's learning my taste and I'm learning theirs, like, it's becoming like a social thing. And I'm collecting more books all of a sudden and not going digital.
Yeah, that's something I haven't really gave much thought to, that, like, the way we grew up getting into, like, art and music and stuff, like, we were already, like, we had the, like the internet was so early for us. And then, like, the internet, like, kind of eating culture was also kind of early for us. And so, like, not that people our age didn't get, like, wrapped up in the wave of it or whatever, but, like, we had this, like, foundation of, like, oh, like, the way I got into, like, Jawbreaker, which we mentioned on the last show, was like through friends. Because I had friends who were like, holy shit, have you heard this band? Or, like, I would find a band and be like, oh my God, I'm really into this band. A
great venue near us.
Yep.
That was like very close to us. A great comic shop that was very close to us. They were like coincidentally right around the corner from each other. And it's like, I don't know how you, like, it baffled me that we went to high school with people who didn't take advantage of these things. We're just not interested.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're sitting on a gold mine. I don't know. Anyway, we're kind of meandering around a little bit.
Yeah, that's all right.
And I have a bunch of stuff for the to read pile as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what have you been reading? You've been reading books, you nerd?
No books. Comic books only. I started reading. I haven't finished it. I'm about halfway through The Simpsons Treehouse of Horror, the Ominous Omnibus Volume 1, Scary Tales and Scarier Tentacles.
Yeah, you've been sending me some of those.
Yeah, a lot of great guest artists within this thing. First of all, it's oversized. It's huge, right?
Oh, nice.
It's in a slipcase. I just bumped the mic. It's in a slipcase with
That's even better.
a die cut in the slipcase that exposes a glow in the dark hardcover for this thing. It is so well crafted and beautiful, and it's only $40. And the second volume just came out. This one came out last year. Second volume just came out. I'm dying to get the second volume. I haven't done it yet. Packed with guest artists. I sent you a couple pages of Evan Dorkin, Eltingville Club fame. Milk and Cheese fame.
Dork. Yeah. I used to have a bunch of issues of Dork as well. Yeah. Evan Dorkin Evan Dorkin's great. Everyone should buy as much as Evan Dorkin. He's also,
as we've all been aging, and he has turned into like a very curmudgeon-y old man, I've like adored him more and more, to be completely honest.
Well, and also like all of the stories though too, I'm like, when I see him, like, you know, because like I know about the stuff that, like, you know, didn't break right, you know.
Sure. He's had a lot of bad luck over the years.
You know, for like different projects and stuff like that. So I'm like, yeah, I'd be pissed too, man. Like,
yeah, fucking A.
You know how this guy's worked? Like, come on.
Yeah, he works hard, dude. He works hard. Anyway, he had a great story in this, and I clipped. He always writes, like, he always puts in little jokes in the background, and when he's playing in like the Simpsons sandbox, it's like he puts every single goddamn Simpsons character on that page. Like, it is boggling, like, how much he drew. And there was this monster that gets pulled from an alternate dimension, and he's like covered in Kirby crackles. And Ralph licks the crackle, and he's like, it tastes like burning. And I'm like, this is such a wonderful, like, convergence of like somebody who loves comic books making like what is a Simpsons joke about comic books in this comic book that can't really work in the animated show, you know?
Yeah.
It's just such like a beautiful meld, and the book is just filled with that stuff. They did a series of 3 stories, and you know, it's Treehouse of Horror, so it's all horror kind of stories.
Time for spooky season, man.
Spooky season. They did a series of an homage to EC Comics that was like really, really great and really smart. Just so much good stuff in there. I highly, highly recommend it. I'm only halfway through it, and I'm eating it up, but I've had kind of a crazy week and trying to get ready for the con that I'm going to this weekend, and then also trying to get a book out, and then also trying to wrangle another book. And so I haven't had a whole lot of time. I wanted to finish it by the time we got to the to read pile, but I haven't quite gotten there. But I do wholeheartedly recommend it. Like I said, if you can't get a hold of volume 1, volume 2 just came out, and they all it's an anthology, so you don't need volume 1 to understand volume 2. You just need a base of Simpsons knowledge, which I assume everyone has. I don't know. Is that a bad assumption?
I do that too sometimes. I was actually like our friend Sean, who I live with, like I made some sort of, I'm like, yeah, you know, it's like that thing in The Simpsons where, and he's just like, I didn't really watch The Simpsons like the rest of you people. I'm like,
are you fucking kidding me, Jason? Are you fucking kidding me? Are you messing with me right now?
Dude,
Sean Derby has not, your roommate has not seen The Simpsons that much?
No. Yeah, no, he's seen The Simpsons, but not to the point where like our friend who you don't know, but our friend Zach is just like him and his dad both, like from when he was a kid. Like Zach's a bit younger than we are, but like
you can continue. But I'm gonna just book a plane ticket real quick. Give me 2 seconds. I'm bringing Simpsons to Sean Derby. Just give me 1 second, and I'll see you in a week.
All right. Well, you know what? I think that's a good enough trip, a good enough reason for a last minute trip. You know, than anything. You know, but I can't believe. Well, I guess I can kind of believe. I sort of like slept on Bongo comics when they were coming out. Like I would pick up a
Yeah,
few issues here and there, especially if I was like if I would see someone like an artist I knew or like I'd
right.
be, oh shit, I'm like all right, they have a story in this. Like maybe I'll pick this up. But like there's a huge blind spot in my comics knowledge, which is like
So
Bongo and like that kind of stuff just is like
I felt the same way. Not that I knew it was a blind spot, but I was in a grocery store checkout, and they had a Treehouse of Horror single issue on the stands where they put like all the magazines and stuff at the checkout. And I was like, oh shit, a comic book. I'll buy that. Like I want to encourage that. I don't want, Time
yeah,
Life magazine, Lucille Ball collection. I'm like, I don't give a shit about that. Like, give me more
yeah, yeah.
comics, Uh, so I bought it. I brought it home, and I was like, this fucking rules. It had a Phil Noto story. Phil Noto drawing The Simpsons. Like,
Jesus.
wild. And I was like, Simpsons comics got to be better than I think they are. So I bought 3 trades of Bongo comics. I think I bought 3, 4, and 5. It was like whatever I could get a hold of at the time. Read them, loved them, gave them away. And then I bought the Treehouse of Horror. It's excellent. Yeah, the comics, there's something. So when you watch The Simpsons, like currently, it's not as good as it used to be. And there's something that gets lost, than that first like 10 seasons. The comics, because of the medium, you hear the jokes better in your head than perhaps like a voice artist could crack them, like
Yeah.
every single joke, the like pattern or the patter of the joke is like you've finally tuned it in your brain by reading the comic,
Yeah, yeah. And
it's
I
a
will say
beautiful thing.
and I will say that like I guess like somewhat special shout out to Matt Groening just because like, he started in comic books. Like I got to say like, it's the most
Yeah,
DIY thing. Like Life is Hell was the first thing they wanted to option because it was he used to make Matt Groening used to make Life is Hell by he would draw it on a sheet of 8.5 by 11 paper and just make copies and like sell them for like 10 cents a pop, like around like the Portland, or he's from Portland, Oregon. But it is really cool. And I guess I never connected it in my head that like, he becomes richer than God because of The Simpsons. And he's like, well, I have enough money to start my own comic book company and I can pay artists really well. This is awesome.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know what their page rates were, but I imagine they were probably better than like
probably
what a lot of those.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know either. But it is just really cool though to be like, oh, the fucking creator of The Simpsons, who got his start in comic books, was like, yeah, I still want to make comics, man. Come on, I'm rich now.
The stories in Treehouse of Horror are grouped in like sci-fi stories, classic horror stories, like homages, so it all like it pulls from a lot of different stuff from a lot of different eras, and I'll put the years in the table of contents. And then in the back, because so many artists worked on this thing, and they're all credited within their stories and in the opening as well. But like you can open it up and there's an index where you can be like Evan Dorkin stories, and it'll give you the page numbers.
Oh, so nice.
Yeah. So it really caters to a comic reader. Like they really want to make sure that they cover all their bases. Not only that, but like, do you know that Mars Attacks is based on a collectible card series?
I do. Actually. Yeah.
So those old card series came out, I want to say 60s or 70s. I can't even remember. Maybe 50s. I don't know.
Probably early 60s, but by like the art, like probably early 60s. But yeah, about that.
They made some fake Simpsons like Mars Attacks cards about like an alien invasion, and it's in the exact same style. And then you flip the page and there's even the back of the cards that they've like written like stories for and that was like how you got the Mars Attacks story back in the day, which is like a awesome homage to like something that's extremely niche. And then not only that, but like they have all these little extras, and there's like comic book guys favorite cosplays that he's done over the years, and so it'll be like him in the cosplay and then the con it was for in the year, you know. So you got all these lists of all these different like wild conventions and stuff, and like his costume for it, and it's just very fun.
That's fucking awesome.
Man, I love this book. I wholeheartedly recommend it. I'm only halfway through. I think it's only going to get better. I'm going to buy the second volume anytime. Yeah.
Shit. Yeah,
it's rad. It's rad.
I'm probably going to buy that this week.
Can I make one more recommendation, Jason?
Yes, you can. Of course.
Get ready to enter the Dad Zone. Dads. Now, we are not dads.
No.
That we know of. We're man whores, but we're not dads that we know of. That I know of. However, lately Reddit, I don't know if you've noticed this, but Reddit has gone like fucking bonkers with like, hey, you want to check out this other subreddit that you didn't subscribe to? We're just going to jam in your feed. Here you go. Over and over. Here you go. I stumbled on to Reddit r decks, and it's all about decks. DECKS, Jason. It's about people building patios, building decks, and the trials and tribulations that they find themselves in doing this work, as well as celebrating good decks and lampooning bad decks. And there's something really kind of amazing in it. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's like the specific community of people, or if it's the construction aspect of it that like is really like massaging my brain in a really pleasant way. But like, dude, I fucking love it. I don't know. There's something about it.
I'll tell you what it is. And what it is that is pure uncut internet that's being injected into your veins, because that is honestly some of what I enjoy the most about the internet, is that you it's just people who have like, there's like, how many billions of people are on the planet right now? 6, something like that.
Something like that.
Like 6 billion people, right? And it's like, yeah, of course, like 350 million in America. Of course, there would be a few that might want to get on the internet and start talking about their deck. And then all of a sudden,
exactly.
They kind of get into the community because, they really helped me out with this problem when I was trying to like patch something on my deck. And then now I'm really into deck memes that nobody else in my family or my personal life understands.
They don't understand. My coworkers don't understand this, but my deck friends understand this.
yeah, exactly. Like I absolutely love shit like that. Like it reminds me of like my favorite subreddit, I think, will always be Never Broke a Bone. And then people will
I love that one too.
And they get immediately banned and made fun of.
Yep. It's very, very good.
Yeah, it's just so like I think it's that, and I think like and for you personally, I think it's that like, you've always really enjoyed, and especially because like these are like happen to be your interests, are just like weird niche little like things that like other people get excited about. And like that's what I fucking love too, man. Like don't like I want more, like I don't know, I think it was maybe Iron Spike years ago had tweeted out, and I remember this because I wholeheartedly agree, and she was saying something like, I don't want to see another story about Napoleon from like, someone at the Smithsonian. You know, I want to see like the Smithsonian, like the assistant bug collector, tell me about like what their favorite like thing is in there, and I want to listen to an hour of that person just excitedly talking about this thing that nobody else in the world seems to care about except for them. You know, and I absolutely love that shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if someone was like, hey, yeah, Jerry's really into decks, I'd be like, no shit. Like, hey, Jerry, tell me about decks. Jerry,
tell me about your deck.
Yeah, be like, no. I'm completely not joking. I want to know everything about. It's just I don't know. Maybe there's some sort of like validation you get for when, and I say like the royal you, like myself included, but like for your weird little like interests that like
maybe.
You know,
I am also like, on the flip side of this. I'm like, man, these deck people, they sure are something. And then in the same breath, in the same week that I'm like discovering the decks for them, I'm also grappling. Shannon and I are rewatching Gilmore Girls right now. We're also watching Supernatural at the same time. Both shows have a star, Jared Padalecki, in them. And the more that I watch them both, the more that I think that they are interconnected universes. And I have started to make mental notes as to like, oh, this person, like Rune shows up. And I realize if you're not into Gilmore Girls, it's okay to abandon the pod at this point, because basically I've got Gilmore Girls from here on out. This minor character, Rune, he's Jackson's like cousin, and Jackson he's like the vegetable guy that provides Sookie, who's the cook at the inn with like all the vegetables, and they end up having a relationship.
So this guy Rune is in no way related to Barry Windsor Smith's Rune for Malibu Comics.
No, not at all. Not at
all.
He's all right. He's just this like little guy. He's a complainer. You first meet him when they go on a double date with Sookie and Jackson, and Lorelai and Rune get set up, and Rune is disgusted by Lauren Graham because he's like, she's so goddamn tall, and then she's like, they're like trying to eat, and he's like, what shoe size are you? And he's just grossed out the entire time. A great character. But there's a moment where like Rune comes into town, he's staying with Jackson, and he's like, he has nowhere else to go. And like Jackson's kind of taking him in because you don't turn your back on family, but his family is apparently not speaking to him, and it's left very vague. And I'm like, that's weird. Because most of the hunters in Supernatural usually get into hunting because there's like a family tragedy that exposes them to the world of like demons and shifters and like whatever, you know, and then they're like, oh, these things exist. They killed my family. I'm going to start killing them. And then Rune shows up, right? He shows up to the inn to pick up a job. And like, I'm like, Rune's a hunter. Like he's working Stars Hollow right now. He's on a case. He shows up, right? And he's got an unexplained shoulder injury that he like is just like, oh yeah, my bag's heavy. And he also comes in with a duffel, and every single hunter in Supernatural carries a fucking duffel full of guns. Like every single goddamn one, Jason. I swear to God, they are interconnected worlds, and I will die on this hill. So meanwhile, I'm like deep into my own fucking headcanon of this, and I'm like, man, those Dex people, they are crazy. The other thing that's happening is that
fucking weirdos.
I'm also like, I've gotten really into getting original hardware to look good on modern televisions, and so I've owned 3 different upscalers at this point and line doublers. And what they do is they take like a row of pixels and they'll make that 5 rows of pixels instead. So you retain this kind of like crisp clarity rather than taking a, 240p screen and stretching it out to 4K. Like it'll be all blurry. So this will do it in a very nice, clean way. And this is the first time we've watched Gilmore Girls on a 4K set that is like pretty large. And I've realized that both options to watch the first season of Gilmore Girls are fucking terrible. One option is Netflix, in which they do like the thing where they take the 4:3 aspect ratio and they crop the top and bottom off to make it widescreen, quote unquote. They did this to The Simpsons. They did this to Seinfeld to their detriment.
Yep.
And then because they're working with like, they're making television for 4:3 and they're making television for you to view on a television that is like 20 inches, 7 feet away from you instead of like, 70 inches in 4K.
Yeah.
So there's all these shots where it's like you see a shot and it'll be like a one shot of like a person talking. And then it'll be a wide shot of the two people talking in the environment. And I swear to God, they look like different shows. And I never noticed until it was like a 4K television and then it was crop zoomed. It looks like fucking hot garbage, Jason. So, and like not only that, but the fucking audio too. Like you can tell it's like a totally different show. Anyway, the point is this, Jason, this is the point. This is the point is that the other option, if you want it in the correct aspect ratio, is to download some DVD rips that are floating around online. But these rips are from like 2007 and they are the blurriest fucking trash I have ever seen. And when they go from, and listen to this creative choice too. This is, by the way, I started ranting about this with Shannon, and Shannon was like, I fucking can't today. Like, can we just skip this? So I'm subjecting it to you. I'm sorry.
Oh, but I'm digging it. Man.
Listen to this. Gilmore Girls is in a weird place because it started out on 4:3 televisions, and then the technology changed. We went from 4:3 CRTs to flat panels, basically, like in the span of a couple of years. And so the studio is like, hey, you did your first season in 4:3, like shoot it in widescreen now. We got you better cameras. And Amy Sherman Palladino was like, fuck no, 4:3 till we die. Like, I will shoot it in widescreen, but we are cropping that shit. However, the ones on Netflix are the full shot. So it's crystal clear from season 2, but there's nothing happening on either side of the television. It's all right down the barrel. And so if you want that like cropped aspect ratio, you got to go back to those DVD rips. And at least they look good from season 2 on in the streaming. They're not like cropping. They're not, cropping a 4:3 to blow it up. They're like just showing you the raw footage. It was shot in widescreen. Here it is in widescreen. It was made for 4:3, but here it is in widescreen.
Yeah.
Jason, I'm pretty sure that this entire experience has soured me on everything that's out there, and that I'm confident that I'm going to go to my local Goodwill, buy a DVD player, get the DVDs from the library, hook the DVD player up to my RetroTink 5X in order to upscale them my fucking self, and then do it my goddamn self and make clear 4:3 correct aspect ratio seasons of the Gilmore Girls that don't look like a muddy mess. And so I think that's in my future. I think it's a long-term project because I can't just rip them off the disc. I have to like physically watch them and record them. It's going to be a lot.
I would love to. I'll probably send this rant specifically to my friend Eric because I think he would really dig and understand.
It's the same thing with like, you've brought this up. Like people are like, oh, you haven't listened to the Beatles till you listen to them in mono. It's the same kind of madness of like, I want this thing as it was originally created by its creator. Like, and like, I want it to look nice on the television that I have. And so in order to do that, I apparently have to put in thousands of man hours because nobody else has yet.
Yeah, which honestly is a larger like conversation, and like I don't think people have realized like just how much like streaming has eaten away at things,
Oh, yeah.
because
The first season of Supernatural, they redubbed all of the music in it. So now instead of like AC/DC, it's like something that I can put on our YouTube channel on over this recording right now. Right now, you're listening to a song from Supernatural Season 1 that is not AC/DC, I'll tell you that.
it's the legally distinctive equivalent of
Right.
Well, that,
and sometimes it's like real jar. Man, I care about like the nuts and bolts of this stuff, and it just feels like, Netflix doesn't give a shit. They're just like cropping 4x3. Who gives a fuck? Put it out there,
Yeah. Well, because I think about, and I'm just barely old enough to kind of remember it, but like, I think a lot of people have forgotten or just don't know that like there was a time where Ted Turner was like the richest man in the country, and everybody knew who he was, which was still kind of like rare-ish for a super wealthy person at the time.
The only reason I knew who he was because Conan had a Ted Turner parody guy who would come on sometimes riding a stuffed buffalo in the 90s.
But there was this big, I forgot what he had bought. I think he had bought some film company, but there was this big controversy where he said he was going to colorize a bunch of classic, like he was going to colorize Casablanca. He was going to.
It's just not done, Jason. It's just not supposed to be done.
But like, and people rightfully flipped out and was like, no, don't fucking what are you doing? Don't do this. And he ended up not doing it, But I think like we've kind of come full like sixth circle of, Netflix, Hulu, like whoever, because they're just streaming it. And because they're streaming it, I'm sure that like most of what goes into it is how can we keep our costs low? These
right, exactly.
These pigs want their slop, and they want their slop in what they think is 4K. And so, well, we'll do that for our shows, but any of these other shows, fuck it. Like we're what 4K. It's actually it's like oh, everything's going to be in 4K now. It's like, oh, but it's not supposed to be. It wasn't just like, no, fuck you, it's 4K. We don't give a shit how it's going to make it look. We're going to everyone wants the new flashy thing.
In chatting a little bit about this online and trying to find like a solution that doesn't exist, that I have to take matters into my own hands when it comes to the Gilmore Girls, I found out that the Star Trek Next Generation, the reason why it looks so good is because they upscaled it. They took great pains to do so. And when they were not able to replicate, or when they were not able to upscale like some of the special effects and things like that, they used CGI in order to painstakingly replicate each individual frame in order to like get the thing to look great. And they really took time, energy, and care into it, and they made no money at it. It was such a wild, unsuccessful thing that they did not. They were going to consider to do it for Deep Space Nine after TNG, and because it just didn't make any money, they were like, "Oh, I guess people don't want this," so they stopped. Which is heartbreaking, because those episodes, when you stream The Next Generation, it's gorgeous. It is gorgeous. And I wish that same level of care got brought to some other like fan favorite shows. But
yeah,
I don't know.
Money, man. Turns out profit motive is maybe not a good way to run your society.
So anyway, remember to click those Amazon links down below if you're looking to pick up any of the stuff that we've talked about today in the show.
Hey man, everyone's selling a product.
Jason, where can people find you?
They can find me still on Twitter at King of Black Acid, also on Blue Sky at King Black Acid. Still haven't posted anything over there yet. Got to get into it a bit more. Twitter's just getting kind of even just boring at this point. But also, World's Second Finest on Twitter.com.
Yep.
World's Second with the 2. That's the show account.
I don't know if the Batman episode that we just recorded is going to be late or not, because I have a comic convention this weekend. Usually I do all my editing and stuff on Fridays, Saturdays, and get the pod out for Sunday. But I'm clearly not going to be able to do that because I will be at Asheville Beer City Comic Con. So those delays, if you want to, if you're like, where's the episode? Like, is it coming? I don't know. If you're like, this is all I can think about. I'm weirdly manic about this and I'm trying to get professional help, but like, I really just need to know where the episode is. You can find it at World's Second Finest Twitter. I always post up there if I'm running late on anything really.
Yeah, I'll post that like Nick's stuck in a bear trap, you know.
Yep.
Or something like that, you know, which will likely be true. You know how like
most of the time
violent comic book conventions can get.
Yeah, most of the time it's not a bear trap. Most of the time I'm just like head and like 1.5 shoulders into a big pot of honey.
Yeah,
with wearing no pants.
You do love you do love hunting for honey pantsless.
Yeah,
you know,
it's weird.
It's
Jason,
weird, but you're not hurting anyone when you do it.
Specific, very niche hobbies that really just light my fire.
r/pantsless honey. You've just been in my
You can find me at linktree.com/Nickfil. You can find all relevant links up there, including the Discord where you can come and hang out and talk comic books. I'm on there pretty much every time I'm in the chair. So regular work days, definitely. Boyks, Cam, and Chops and I are about to do, we're about to try an archipelago this week. I know that you're not able to hear it live because it's going to happen before this episode goes live, but you can see it on my Twitch. Let me explain to you what archipelago is just real quick. It is a randomizer amongst a bunch of different games. So I'll be playing A Link to the Past. Boyks will be playing Pokemon Red. And both of those games will be connected. So Boyks will find the fire rod from The Legend of Zelda in like the bushes, and it will send it to my game. And I will find like a master ball and send it to his game. And so they're interconnected and randomized. Like every item is in a different place, and then they're all scattered across multiple games. And so we're going to do 4 games. It's going to be buck wild. I'm really looking forward to it. It's like hell to set up, but we're gonna do it. And you can find that at twitch.tv/Nickfil. And then once the VOD leaves there, it will be on the YouTube forever. So check it out.
Nice. I will check that out.
Thank you for listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everyone.